On the day he got home, I put the drug in his tea and made him drink it all. We left soon after and waited for it to begin working. We knew it would be like 4 hours later. The CCTV was connected to my phone, so I could watch and listen to everything happening at his house. 4 hours later, I began watching it. My dad had passed out in the living room. Linda tried to wake him up by slapping him, which was very surprising, but he didn't budge. Rather than call out for help, Linda began jumping excitedly. After her little celebration, she called someone on a video call. It was a man.
The old fool is dead, baby. We're rich.
She'd been deceived into believing that my dad is dead, and he changed his will. When my dad introduced Linda to us as his girlfriend, we all thought it was one of his silly pranks. My name is Sean, and my dad is 72 years old. My siblings and I are all grown and even married. My 2 older siblings already have kids, while my wife and I are still preparing for childbearing. My dad is a rich man. He and my late mother had formed 2 beverage producing companies and grew them tirelessly. Now, our brands are famous for our products. My mom died 10 years ago, and my dad didn't remarry. When he suddenly invited us all over and introduced us to Linda, you can imagine our shock. That day, when he called us all, we thought it was for his usual advice sessions. And when we saw Linda, I thought he'd taken a new homeworker.
This is Linda, my new girlfriend. I'll love it if you all respect her the way you respect me. No one has shown any interest in me since your mother's death, but Linda did. I'm happy with her.
Was I angry? Kind of. I mean, all of a sudden? How did they even meet? When did it all happen? Were they even in love? Does she even love you?
She loves me. We've been together for a month, and I can't say how happy I've been. She's the best thing that has happened to me after your mother, and she feels the same. Right, baby?
I frowned as Linda nodded. She looked so young to suddenly be in love with my old father. How old are you? I was shocked when she revealed that she was only 22. How possible? A young lady of 22 would only be with a man as old as my dad for one reason: his money. No doubt, this lady was there for my father's wealth.
Dad, you have to break up with her. She's too young. How can you think she's in love with you? I'm 50, Dad. She's old enough to be your granddaughter.
I agree with her, Dad. This is wrong in all ways. And you, young lady, I put it to you that there's no way you're in love with my father.
I understand that it's hard for you guys to believe because I'm really young. But believe me, I do like your dad. A whole lot, in fact. I've never been in a relationship because I've never been attracted to young men. Your dad is the first man I've been with, and I've not regretted a single day spent with him. I love him.
Yeah, she was good with her words. I'll give her that. She deceived us without even doing much. Just her words were enough to break our walls. That day, we stayed at my dad's house until evening. Linda had made us delicious food and even packed some to take home for my sister, who couldn't have enough of the food. She was just so good and humble. After meeting Linda twice more, we were convinced that she was truly in love with our dad. My dad would call me nearly every evening to tell us about the fun he had with Linda. She would help him with cooking, his laundry, and even washing up. They also went out on dates. It reminded me of how happy my dad used to be when my mom was alive, and I felt as though my mom had come back into our lives in the form of Linda. My siblings and I grew to love her. I mean, she was lovable. I have a restaurant which wasn't so big then, but Linda would come often to help me with certain things there. She also visited my older siblings sometimes to help with their kids. After about 4 months, they got married. My dad had been so excited when he invited us over to tell us about his engagement. It was quite strange, though. Linda had asked him to marry her by herself. According to my dad, she'd taken him out on a date at a restaurant, and while they were eating, she surprisingly pulled out a ring and asked him to marry her.
But why? That should have been the other way around. Why would she do that? It's only been like 6 months?
Well, she said she was scared I might not want to get married to her because she's young. She did it herself to prove that she was ready for marriage. I think it's cute and thoughtful.
Honestly, I thought the same too. Truly, she might have thought my dad would never marry her due to the age gap. Proposing to him by herself only meant that she was truly ready. That's what I'd thought. So, I supported her. My siblings also seemed to reason like me. We all agreed to their marriage. It's not like it wouldn't have happened if we disagreed. While preparing for the wedding, I realized that Linda was demanding a court wedding instead of the usual church one. I refused. My siblings refused. We thought it would be too much to wed at the church. My dad was confused. As much as he wanted to give her the court wedding she wanted, he also didn't like the thought of it. It was hard, but we were eventually able to convince Linda against the court wedding. She'd clearly not wanted to give it up, but we had to force her. On the wedding day, Linda didn't feel so excited. We were fooled into thinking that she was having a headache, so we felt bad for her. My sister has to comfort and be close to her throughout the day. After the wedding, life with Linda and my dad began. The first 2 months, neither my siblings nor I visited our dad. We wanted him to have all the fun he wanted with his new wife, without knowing that we were making a silly mistake. I didn't visit my dad until 3 months later, and when I saw him, I noticed the difference in his behavior. He was quieter than usual and had lost some weight. When I asked if he was okay, he lied that he was and smiled at me. But I know my dad too well. I could see that his smile didn't get to his eyes. There was surely something going on. When Linda showed up in the living room, I caught my dad as he flinched. I frowned. Linda greeted me with cheerful smiles before sitting down and resting her head on my dad's shoulder. We talked for a while before it was time for me to leave. On my way out, I asked Linda to go with me. We talked about my dad's issue. Is my dad okay? He looks different, and his behavior is strange. What's going on? I watched how her face fell. She looked down on the floor.
Your dad isn't making me happy, Sean. Ever since we got married, he's been getting distant. He pushes me away sometimes. On some nights, he sends me out of the room.
What?
Yes. Can you believe it? I'm a young girl, and I'm his wife. I deserve his attention, but it's like he doesn't love me. I'm so sad, Sean.
I felt so bad for her and promised to talk to my dad. She thanked me before going back in. The next time I visited my dad, he was even worse. This time, he barely even said any words to me. I grew so frustrated that I angrily left his house. On my way, my dad's lawyer called me. He told me that my dad called him regarding a change in his will. He wanted to give everything to Linda. That was unexpected. I decided to tell my siblings. Together, we visited my dad again 4 days later. When we got there, we found the house empty. I went up to my dad's room and met him sprawled on the floor. I quickly shouted for my siblings' help. We immediately took him to the hospital. When Linda came, I was surprised at her words.
Is he dead? No, he can't die now. Has he changed his will yet? He can't die!
My father is not dead. What the hell are you saying?
She immediately became cold as ice. She scratched her head and began stammering.
Well, he said he had some changes to do. I was just scared that he didn't get to do that before he died. What happened to my husband?
I was suspicious of her. Regardless of the reason, why would she suddenly assume his death and care only about his will? When my dad woke up, he began crying. We comforted him and tried to find the reason for his tears, but he didn't tell us. Even more, he asked Linda to leave the room. I just knew something was wrong. When I told my siblings about my suspicion, they agreed with me. It seemed as though our dad was being abused by his new wife. We also suspected her of wanting his wealth. Her worrying about the will was proof. Also, my dad wouldn't attempt to change his will like that, if not forced to.
She also proposed marriage to Dad first. It's strange enough.
We decided to find out the truth. We knew my dad would never tell us, so we decided to do it our own way. Before leaving the hospital, we spoke to the doctor about our plan. He was our family doctor, so we trusted him. He gave us a drug that can make a person sleep for a whole day and be confused as dead. We also made Linda stay at the hospital with my dad for 2 whole days while we fixed CCTV cameras in his house. On the day he got home, I put the drug in his tea and made him drink it all. We left soon after and waited for it to begin working. We knew it would be like 4 hours later. The CCTV was connected to my phone, so I could watch and listen to everything happening at his house. 4 hours later, I began watching it. My dad had passed out in the living room. Linda tried to wake him up by slapping him, which was very surprising, but he didn't budge. Rather than call out for help, Linda began jumping excitedly. After her little celebration, she called someone on a video call. It was a man.
The old fool is dead, baby. We're rich.
She'd been deceived into believing that my dad is dead, and he changed his will. Well, after the lawyer called me, Linda had visited him. The lawyer lied to her that my dad had changed his will. He'd been our lawyer for a long time, so he knew something was up. When he told me, I was so thankful to him. While Linda was celebrating with whoever was on the phone, I contacted the police as well as my siblings. She was taken aback when we suddenly burst into the house. She tried to escape, but it was a useless attempt. The cops handcuffed and took her straight to the station. It was discovered there that she and her boyfriend, who was 22, had planned to scam my dad. The boy was also arrested. They were both taken to court, where my dad divorced her. Upon learning that Linda had been arrested, my dad confessed to us that she had been abusing him. He also said that he would never date or marry anyone ever again. He was disappointed in himself, but happy that we had saved him. She was charged with emotional and physical abuse, as well as fraud. She got 25 years imprisonment, while her boyfriend got 15 for being an accomplice. She was in so much tears while being pulled away. She kept crying and apologizing to us. Her parents were also in tears. Linda had ran away from home, so they thought she went missing. We felt bad for them, but she had to be punished. She was nothing but a gold digger. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.